Okay, now that we know who the winners are of competitive bidding, we're going to put all the winners over onto this side. Now, there's one little stipulation that still needs to be satisfied here, and that's this 30% set aside rule. And the 30% set aside rule is ensuring that the total number of winners considered small businesses. Now, CMS is considering a small business as a company whose annual revenues are less than $3.5 million. So in this example, we notice that company 1 is a small business, but the rest of the winners are not considered small businesses. So when we look at our total number of winners, we have 1 out of 7 winners that are a small business. So if we take 1 divided by 7, we get about 14%. Now 14% does not satisfy the 30% set aside rule. So as a result, CMS is going to have to go back into the winners or back into the pool and look for more winners who are small businesses. So after company 1, the pivotal bid, we're going to look for the next lowest bid, in this case company 12. Company 12 is another small business, so they are going to win even though their composite bid is above the pivotal bid. So now we have 2 companies that are small businesses. So we have 2 out of 8 that are small businesses. Well, again, 2 divided by 8 is going to be 25%. That still doesn't satisfy the 30% rule, so they're going to have to go back into this and look for more small businesses. So after company 12, the next lowest bid number was company 14. However, they're not a small business, so they're not going to be selected. So the next one would be company 13. They're not a small business. Next one would be company 2. They're not a small business. Next one would be company 4. They're not a small business. Next one would be company 3. Company 3 is a small business, so they would be the next winner. And now we have 9 winners, 3 of which are small businesses, which is 33%. So now we have satisfied the 30% rule, and these become the official winners of competitive bidding. Okay? So now that we know who our winners are, we're going to get into how do we know what the new single payer amount is going to be. Well, to figure that out, we're going to go back to each of our products, and we're going to look to see what everybody bid for each of those products. So, product A. Company 1, we're company 1, and we looked at our product A, and we see we bid $13. So we're going to plug $13 right there. And we're going to do the same thing for all the other companies' bids. So let's just say company 10 bid 18, 7 did 11, 12, 14, 19, 10, 11, 50, and we'll say 1750. I don't know. So these are the bids for product A for all these different companies. Now, one thing to note, the average is $14. That's not necessarily going to be the single payer amount. They are not taking the average. They're taking the median, which is the one right in the middle. So the one in the middle is going to be, if we have 9 companies, 5 would be the middle company. So we got to go through this and say $10 the lowest, so that's 1. Then we got 11, that's 2. 11.50, that's 3. 12, that's 4. 13 is the 5th lowest number, or the one right in the middle. So this becomes the single payer amount. Okay? And now every company who participated, who won competitive bidding, is going to get $13 as their single payer amount for HCPCS code A. Now look at company 10. Company 10 bid $18. Well, they're still only going to get $13 for HCPCS code A, even though they bid $18. Okay? Then we're going to do the same thing for product B. So in our case, company 1, HCPC code B, we did 34. So we place the 34 here. And again, we figure out what the different reimbursement rates or different bid amounts were for each of these other companies. So let's say this was 31 and 59 and 56 and 44 and 42, 35 and 29. So again, the average here is a 42.44. That has no bearing on what the single payer amount is going to be. It is going to be the middle bid amount. So again, that's going to be the fifth one. So it looks like 29 is the lowest, so that's the first one. Then 31, then 34, then 35, and then it looks like 42. So 42 becomes the new single payer amount. And again, everybody here is going to get $42 for HCPC code B. And the same thing goes true for C. C, we bid $77.25. So, okay, we're going to do 99. We'll say 65. We'll say 85, 72, 76, 84, 87, and I don't know, 83. So we're going to look for the middle one, which is the fifth one. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 83 becomes the new single payer amount. And that's how they're going to determine the winners of competitive bidding and the new single payer amount for each of the HCPC codes. The thing to note here is that even though we bid $13 or 34 or 77.25, these numbers actually had almost no bearing on what the actual single payer amount turned out to be. It was purely the middle number. So again, if we looked at company 10, they bid $18 for product A, $31 for B, and $99 for C. But the actual payment amount came out to be $1342.83, totally different from what they bid. And that's why when we're constructing our bids, we don't want to necessarily just concern ourselves of what we want the reimbursement rate to be, but rather what is the best combination of bids against weights to come up with the lowest composite bid possible, so we fall into this category of winning bidders. Okay? So, a couple more things that I want to focus on. So as we're strategizing, and we know that composite bid is the #1 concern on how we construct our bid, there's two numbers that we're going to want to know. One's called the bid ceiling, and the other one's called the bid floor. The bid ceiling is what is the absolute highest that the composite bid could be based on the rules of the program. The rules of the program says that your bid has to be lower than the fee schedule. So in this case, let's take a penny off the fee schedule. That's considered lower. Let's do that for every one of the items. So this would be $59.99, $124.99, $24.99.99, $99.99, and $49.99. So by taking a penny below the current fee schedule, we would effectively come up with a weighted composite bid of $42.64. That is the bid ceiling. If our composite bid is above that number, we did something wrong. Because the only way it can be above that is if we bid something above the fee schedule, which we don't want to do. Okay? So we want to know the bid ceiling. On the same token, we want to know what is our bid floor. What's the absolute lowest that we can create a composite bid? Well, the way we're going to figure this out is we have to figure out what is our total cost for these items. And just like we did before, we're going to take what is our total operating expense as a percent of sales and multiply that by our current fee schedule for each of the HCPC codes. And that's going to give us what our operating expense is for each HCPC code, and then we're going to add that to our direct cost. So that's how we're going to determine what our total cost is. So if we were to go in here and bid our cost for every item, we would figure out what our floor would be. So let me just do that. Aha. So in this case, we put a bid down that was our cost, our total cost for each HCPC code. And we found out that our composite bid is $29.62. This becomes our bid floor. Okay? So now that we know our bid ceiling and our bid floor, we know what our range is that we have to work with in determining what our composite bid is going to be. So our objective is going to be, how do we get our number as close to the bid floor as possible while still maintaining a bona fide bid in each of the HCPCs? And that's what we're going to work on when we go into the bid calculator. Okay? The last thing I want to really touch upon is this capacity issue. The capacity issue talks about what is our current capacity and how much can we furnish the CBA if we win competitive bidding. Now, as we noticed, capacity really had no bearing on whether we won or lost the bid. In fact, capacity is not even going to be used to determine how many units we're going to provide when we win the bid. Capacity is really only used to determine how many winners are going to be selected by CMS. So when we figure out our capacity, we need to make a reasonable attempt to take a look at what we are currently providing that CBA and what we could additionally provide that CBA. So there's a couple rules for that too. Let's say that our current capacity for HCPC code A was 300. Let's just say. Well, if it's 300 and we know that the total utilization is 2,500, we may want to say, hey, let's go for all 2,500. Well, not necessarily reasonable, because there would be a lot of infrastructure changes that would have to happen to your business in order to handle that much more business. If you were to say, I want 2,500, they may come back to you and say, well, hold on, we want to know what your expansion plan and how do you intend to handle these additional patients. The other stipulation is that the highest capacity you can furnish in the CBA is going to be 20% of the total utilization. So in this case, we're at 100% of the utilization, which is too high. If we were to do this, they would just knock us down to 20%. So the highest percentage of utilization that we can furnish the CBA is going to be 20% of the utilization. So after all is said and done, that's it. That's how we are going to strategize our bids, to create our weighted bids, and how we're going to plug in our capacities. And at the end of the day, if our composite bid is low enough, we're going to win competitive bidding. Okay? And that is a complete summary of how Medicare is going to be determining the winners of competitive bidding round 2.